Muscle cars were really popular in the 1960s and 1970s in America. They were fast and cool, whether you drove them on the street or raced them. People still love these cars even though they were made over 50 years ago, and some of them are now worth a lot of money. For example, cars like the Pontiac GTO and Shelby Mustang can sell for millions of dollars at auctions. Some rare and old muscle cars like the Cobra Super Snake, Dodge Charger Daytona, and Corvette L88 still look amazing and can beat many new cars in a race. But even if you manage to find one today, you probably won't be able to afford it. And all your favorites will soon be revealed as we look at the 9 rarest American muscle cars ever made. Back in the time when muscle cars were popular, Ford had powerful engines like the Boss 429 and 428 Cobra Jet. Chevrolet had its own big gun, the 454 cubic inch V8. They called the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle 454 SSLS6 the king of the streets, and it was the most powerful Chevelle ever. But here's the thing, they only made 20 of them, so finding one is super hard. The Chevelle was already a strong muscle car in the late 1960s, and it had different V8 engines you could choose from. But in 1970, they came out with the LS6 version, which had a 7.4-liter V8 engine. They added a special carburetor to it that gave it 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. But here's the trick. They said it had less power than it actually did, so insurance wouldn't be too expensive. In reality, it had over 500 horsepower. Back in the day, the GTO Judge was a popular nameplate, especially in the coupe version. But not many people paid attention to the convertible version. The Pontiac GTO is often seen as the first real muscle car, and the Judge is like the supercharged version of it. Under the hood of the 1971 Pontiac GTO Judge, you'd find a big 455 cubic inch V8 engine that could make up to 335 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of twisting power. This engine was connected to a 3-speed turbo-hydromatic 400 transmission. Now, the GTO Judge is already quite rare, but the convertible version is even harder to come by. There are only 17 of them in the world. Out of those 17, just 2 were painted in tropical lime color. One of these rare cars was sold at the 2022 Mecca Mindy auction for a whopping $440,000. That's a lot of money for a car? Now, I know you might be surprised to hear about the Dodge Coronet again, but it turns out there's another rare version of this car besides the WO23. In 1967, Dodge introduced the R/T Road and Track package for the Coronet along with the drag-ready WO23. The Coronet had disappeared for a while, but came back in 1965, right at the beginning of the muscle car era. They only made 2,319 of the 1970 Coronet, and just 296 of those were convertibles. What's even more amazing is that only 2 of those convertibles had a 426 Hemi engine. The 1970 Coronet 426 Hemi convertible V8 came with a Torque-A-Flight automatic transmission and a heavy-duty suspension for better performance. To keep you comfy, it had 6-way adjustable vinyl bucket seats. But here's the thing, if you want one of these super rare muscle car convertibles, they don't come up for sale very often. And when they do, they can cost over $300,000, with the 1970 models going for more than $1 million. So, they're not easy to get your hands on. The 1971 Plymouth Hemi CUDA convertible is super hot and extremely rare, which is why it fetched a jaw-dropping $3.5 million at auction. They only made 12 of these beasts, with a powerful 425 horsepower, 426 cubic inch Hemi engine, and just 3 of them had a 4-speed manual transmission. This car came with some cool features like power steering, a driver's seat you could adjust in 6 different ways manually, and a set of Goodyear polyglass tires. It's a real gem for car enthusiasts. And speaking of a real gem, this next car, whether you define it as rare as a couple hundred or just about 10, the C3 Generation ZL1 is incredibly rare, with only 2 of them ever made, and they're worth a staggering $3 million each. The 1969 Corvette Stingray ZL1 is powered by Chevy's famous L88 code 427 cubic inch big block engine, which Chevy claimed had 430 horsepower. However, there are rumors that it had around 500 horsepower, making it even more powerful than advertised. It's a real powerhouse of a car. The 1967 Corvette L88 Coupe is a stunning and extremely rare version of the C2 body-style Corvettes. They only made 20 of these beauties in 1967 and just 80 more the following year. One of the 1967 Corvette L88 coupes was sold at a Meckham Glendale auction for a whopping $2.69 million. This car was no slouch in the performance department. It had a powerful 427 cubic inch big block engine under the hood, and then it was paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. The Corvette L88 also has a rich racing history, having competed in prestigious events like the 24 Hours of Daytona and the Le Mans. A real piece of automotive history. Closing in on our top 3 list, in 1965, just a year after Ford introduced the Mustang, Carroll Shelby started making more powerful versions of the pony car. By 1967, he had come up with both the GT350 and G500. The GT350 was built for the track and was lighter, while the GT500 was a big, powerful car meant for the road. But in 1967, Shelby did something special. He built a unique GT500 for Goodyear to help them promote their new tires. To make it super fast, he used a 7.0-liter V8 engine from the Ford GT40 Mach-E race car and created the Super Snake. He also upgraded the transmission and rear end so the Super Snake could hit 170 miles per hour, which was really fast back then. Shelby originally planned to make 50 of these, but it turned out to be much more expensive than a regular GT500, so they only made one. Recently, that one Super Snake was restored and sold at auction for $2.2 million in 2019. That makes it the most valuable Mustang ever made. But good luck trying to buy one anytime soon, because it's the rarest muscle car ever. Cars like the Ferrari 250 GTO and Chevrolet Corvette Stingray 427 are somewhat similar to the 1966 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake, but they don't have quite the same level of love from enthusiasts. Carroll Shelby made only 2 of these Super Snakes in 1966, one for himself and another for his friend, Bill Cosby. Sadly, Cosby's Super Snake, with the chassis number CCX3303, was wrecked when he drove it off a cliff. The only surviving Cobra 427 Super Snake was sold at an auction for an incredible $5.5 million. It's a real testament to how special and rare these cars are. And finally, we have the 1954 Pontiac Bonville Special Motorama concept car was the creation of the renowned General Motors designer Harley Earl. It's a testament to Pontiac's innovative ideas from as far back as the mid-1950s. Following the popular styling trends of that era, the Bonville Special had a cool plexiglass bubble top, like an aircraft, and gull-wing-style glass door tops. Under the hood of this special car, there was a 268 cubic inch inline-8 engine that could produce 230 horsepower. They only made 2 of these Bonville special cars, and one of them was sold at the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction in 2015 for a staggering $3.3 million. Well, if you could own any of these iconic vehicles, which one would you choose and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more captivating automotive stories. Until next time, keep those engines roaring.